Thank you to Kenzie Bruce for his incredibly generous support on Patreon. Dihada, Binder of Wills versus Dihada, Gishath with Companion Kahira, and Gyome, Master Chef. Got all of our colours there, some ramp we will keep, got a small legendary thing as well. Gyome throwing out a Sol Ring and a Felwar Stone on turn 1, then we see Yoshimaru coming down from the opposite Dihara player. Okay, Vamp Tutor. Well, we've got Demonic Tutor in play, I don't actually mind, because we can only get down a turn 3 Dihada with that fast mana, unfortunately, so let's throw down the Command Tower, and I'll go for Vamp Tutor into a Tricycle land, probably. 3 visits for Gyome. They did drop a land this turn, so they'll be able to get down their commander still. Decided on getting down a Snow land though, so not going to see their commander. Instead, playing out an Elvish Mystic. They're down to 3 cards in hand already. And inexcusably, white bordered Rampant Growth from Gishath. Yoshimaru sees Takenuma enter play, so therefore gets a plus counter on it. And then playing a Boros Signet. Yoshimaru correctly swinging in at Gyome. So I'll go for the Vampiric Tutor now. And I'll just do a little bit of filtering here, grab a Verdant Catacombs, and we'll crack that for the Triome instead. First commander of the game is the one who play fast mana, and then following that up, going down to 2 cards in hand, a Tempting Witch enters with a food token, and Gyome generates a couple more food tokens because there were 2 non-token permanents that entered this turn. Talisman of Impulse, and then they put 3 mana into putting their companion into their hand. For anyone who doesn't know, the companion rule did change pretty much straight away after they released companion. You pay 3 generic mana to put your companion into your hand now. The first Dihada Binder of Wills entering play now, that triggers the Yoshimaru. And plussing on the Yoshimaru as you would expect, so Vigilance, Lifelink, and what is it? Indestructible on there, a 3/3. So I'd still be swinging in at Gyome here if I was him. But nope, spreading the damage, going over to Gishath. Alright, Gemstone Caverns now, so yeah, I'm wondering if I should go for Sharnid or something like that and actually get the card draw going. Yeah, let's play the Demonic Tutor here. Getting Sharnid will give us a creature to actually plus with the Dihada onto. And then it's obviously card draw, like I said, for these legendary things that are in hand. Trail of Crumbs from the Golgari player now. And the 5/3 Gyome swinging straight in towards the Dihada player, so ignoring the commander. And they block with the Indestructible Dog. This does have Trample, so they can buff this up maybe. It's typically how Gyome decks work. You want to be threatening commander damage. So sacrificing a food there, pointing Guillaume's ability at himself to make it indestructible. And they tap down the Sol Ring there, so they did put mana into the Trail of Crumbs. And revealed to us an Underhanded Designs. So landing 2 commander damage over there. Was expecting more, to be honest. Kahira, the Orphan Guard, entering play. Ticking down with Dihada this time, revealing the top 4 cards, any number of legendaries into hand, the rest in the bin. For each one that hits the bin, they will get a treasure. Putting 4 lands into the bin, so clearing 4 lands off the top and getting the mana anyway. Chose not to put the Gemstone Caverns in hand. Now playing the Reaver Cleaver, so going to make even more treasure here. Might mean that we're getting a hit here so that they can make even more mana. That enters, making Yoshimaru a 4/4. It'll be a 5/5 when it gets equipped up. The Gyome is going to tap that thing down and make it indestructible. And then they revealed a Krark Clan Ironworks there to the Trail of Breadcrumbs. A Demonic Tutor being cast by the Mardu player. Okay, so hopefully we can start doing something now here. We draw into a plane, so what we do here is drop the Mana Crypt, make Mardu mana for Sharnid. Play out the Sharnid, Sleeper's Scourge. And then we can, best to drop a land first, just in case we can do something, maybe want to get down a rock instead of a Shadow Spear, so go for the Makokoro. And we are forced to draw a card and lose a life there. Okay, I'm drawing to Yawgmoth's Vile Offering, which we can't cast. That is Destroy and not Exile, so can't make use of that with the Gyome, unfortunately. Play out the Shadow Spear with the floating mana then. And we draw into Thrill of Possibility, which could set something up with Dance of the Dead. So we'll see what we draw into over the next few turns. Have a little bit of a Reanimator sub-theme in this deck. Underhanded Designs we already saw, and they put that into play here. Krark Clan Ironworks as well, just playing both of the revealed cards there. That triggers the underhanded designs, which they have to pay 1 mana into in order to drain us. Gyome now swinging in and finishing off the Dihada. Kahira swinging in towards the Mardu player as well. I think we're encouraging a Dihira board wipe here, unfortunately. Yoshimaru being allowed into the combat step now. See if they've been manipulated away from Gyome. Yeah, maybe. Going in towards Gishath now. We obviously have to keep an eye on Gishath. There's 4, 5, 6, 7 mana. So may well be seeing their commander next turn. Creating 5 treasure tokens thanks to Yoshimaru hitting with the Reaver Cleaver. Sharnid comes into play for the other Dihada player as well. Gerard Weatherlight Hero is going to protect them from a board wipe. Drawing into a Wooded Foothills, we'll drop the Gemstone Caverns so that we can draw a card from Sharnid. Okay, getting to another legendary land in Gaireach Sanitarium. Getting too many colourless lands into play, unfortunately. Alright, there's every chance that we lose our Dihada here. I think we could do with not looking like a threat here, continuing to not look like a threat. I want to get down my commander and minus it down and maybe reanimate some stuff, but I mean, we're in the realms of a board wipe here. I can hold up Thrill of Possibility and get rid of a land and try and draw into something. It's probably the thing to do here. So get rid of a plains with the Thrill of Possibility. Unfortunately not setting up any reanimation stuff with that. That's funny, and getting to a Reaver Cleaver of our own, which we can play, we cannot equip at the moment, and we're 1 away from the Atali as well, annoyingly. So for the sake of mana and drawing a card, we could just play Reaver Cleaver here and maybe just equip up the Shadow Spear. I don't like playing out equipment when we're not going to be making use of them in the same turn, but alright, draws us into Elspeth, which frees up a draw for next turn as well, so I think it's still worth getting down the equipment here. The other Dihada player is looking like a bigger threat than us, which is not the worst thing for us on this side of the table. Sharnid's certainly done some work for us. I think they just sacrificed a food there, and anyway, revealed to us a Moldavine Reclamation, now throwing down a Sanguine Bond. Plenty of combos in this deck, apparently. Sacking another food token, revealing a forest from the Trail of Crumbs. The Sanguine Bond is going to have a target opponent lose 3 life. They point that at the Dihada. Then sacrificing this to destroy a target creature. Only if you control 2 or more artifacts, so blowing up the Oshimaru. They tapped out in order to do that. They don't have any food tokens left anymore, so cannot give their commander indestructible or tap anything else down. So now's the time to get rid of Gyome if we're able to. I think we're going to have a new commander to worry about soon though. Okay, not seeing the Gishath, instead seeing Silverclad Ferocidons. Dihada back into play, and that does cantrip with the Sharnid. Went for the plus onto Dihada there. Nothing revealed though. Equipping up the Reaver Cleaver to Sharnid and swinging in towards the Golgari player who blocks with the 1-3. That does have Menace along with all their other creatures, so gonna have to double block if they want to block at all. And they are throwing away their commander there, surprisingly. So maybe they're looking for a board wipe over the next turn. I'm actually planning on going for the minus on Elspeth as soon as Gishath hits play. They plussed with the Dihada, by the way, so indestructible, lifelink, trample, vigilance and menace on this thing. And they're not going to make any treasures with the Reaver Cleaver. This does actually free the way for our Reaver Cleaver now, so we'll be able to make some treasures next turn. Okay, Urza's Ruinous Blast will exile all non-land permanents that are not legendary, which there's an argument to be made for because they've got some combo pieces in play, but yeah, I think we hold off on that for now. I'm actually going to have to drop the Wooded Foothills here, unfortunately, because I obviously want Mardu mana, because I'm going to play the commander before we swing in. I want Vigilance on the Sharnid. But I also want to reanimate the Yoshimaru, which I think we can do with Dance of the Dead. Yeah, it's enchant a creature in a graveyard. So just drop a plateau. And I actually miscounted the mana there. We can't go Dance of the Dead onto Yoshimaru before swinging in and dropping our commander. Yeah, so I don't necessarily care about that then. Let's just equip the Sharnid and we'll play out our commander as well for the first time. Gishath still holding up priority, so might be a Swords or a Path in their hand. May start seeing some hate from the Dihada player over here. We do counter it with Sharnid once again. That gets us into Jeska's Will. Yeah, decent number of cards in people's hands. 4, 4 and 5. And Gishath still pausing here, so yeah, I'm really hoping that they wait to see who we attack before we see anything else here. I mean, if it's Swords or Path, they don't have to worry about Indestructible, so we'll put Lifelink on the Sharnid, start trying to gain some more life. I was thinking about getting the Oshimaru into play from here, one because it'll buff itself really big and become a threat in itself, but it also helps against the Menace stuff here. But we wouldn't have been able to land a bunch of legendary stuff onto it anyway. So now we'll swing in at the Gyome player, as long as Gishath doesn't do anything to us. Pretty sure they're thinking about it. No, they do allow us to hit, so we go back up to 32. We are going to make 4 treasure tokens. They obviously couldn't block there thanks to the Menace. They only have 1 blocker held up. So I'm going to make use of this treasure mana straight away. I'll actually go for Jeska's Will onto, we'll do both. Jeska's Will pointed at the other Dihada player because they've got 5 cards in hand. Okay, and of course, we just reveal a bunch of expensive stuff there, so just exiling some decent stuff off the top for no good reason really. I think we probably get down Queen Marquesa here. Could have played a combination of spells from the hand maybe, but I think I like keeping some of the cards in hand and actually making use of that spell. Not the best spells that we could have got into. We will draw a card and lose a life though, so might be able to make use of the 3 floating red mana. Alright, glad I didn't exile that, a Ruinous Ultimatum. So we do become the Monarch. I think people were going to be looking to swing in our direction anyway. But yeah, they certainly will be now that the Monarchy's in play. Maybe someone will swing in at us and then that'll encourage all the other players to go in at them, you know, that's what the Monarchy tends to do. And we are going to have to discard a card at the end of turn here. Yeah, I'd rather keep the Sharnid in play rather than Queen Marquesa, so if players are going to be removing whatever the Reaver Cleaver is attached to, I'd rather it be the Queen Marquesa, so that 3 red mana can put Reaver Cleaver onto Marquesa, and that is now a 4-4 with Trample, Menace, Death Touch and Haste. Draw a card at the end of the turn, that is just a mountain, so I think we can get away with just playing the legendary land next turn, so let's dump the mountain there. Moldavine Reclamation we've already seen from our opponent, they revealed it off the Trail of Crumbs, so putting that into play here, 4 cards in hand. And they seem eager to draw a card here, they're swinging in at the other Dihada player directly. I would just allow this if I was them, because they need the creature to die in order to draw, but of course they throw that straight in the way. So they will gain 3 life there. I would have held them off the card draw personally. Gaining them a life and drawing a card, that will trigger the Sanguine Bond as well. And they've really got their eyes fixed on this player. Sacrificing a Felwar Stone to the Ironworks, and that allows them into a Witch of the Moors. So they have gained life this turn. They wouldn't have done if our opponent had just let that thing through. It was an obvious combat trick they were going for. So they're returning this creature to hand, and each of us has to sack one. So I'm going to get rid of the Queen Marquesa here. Gerard goes down here from the Dihada player, so that's good. Means that board wipes are switched back on over here. Gishath, Sun's Avatar, comes just in time. It does have haste unfortunately, so they will get a trigger off it, but I'm hoping we can get down Ruinous Ultimatum next turn. We'll have to make some treasures, but that shouldn't be too difficult. Okay, and both of our opponents seem to be really worried about the other Dihada player. I don't know if I should be insulted by that, but alright, pulling a dinosaur back. The Gishath is currently swinging in at the other Dihada, and then this one is swinging in at our face. So I'm just going to take the 8 damage here. Alright, they decide to block. They've got Indestructible, so this is damage, isn't it? Each opponent sacks a permanent, yeah. We save ourselves. We actually gain life if we block here, but I don't want to sacrifice anything, so we'll let them take the Monarchy from us and take 8 damage. Taking the Monarchy away from us, Gishath lands the hit and triggers. Wow, and totally whiffs. That's not something you often see. Well, they'll draw a card here. I bet it's a dinosaur they'll draw into as well. Yeah, not often you see that from Gishath, but totally whiffing there and not getting into any dinosaurs. I was hoping to wrap some more up in a board wipe, but they will remain hidden in the library. Painful Truths is draw 3, lose 3. Then plussing onto the Sharnid again, so Indestructible, Lifelink, Trample and Vigilance. And they can go through to any player they want here thanks to the Menace. swinging in the direction of Gishath. Make 3 treasure tokens, steal the monarchy away. They've got 7 cards in hand, so yeah, they seem to be struggling a tiny bit on mana. 8.5 tails coming into play. Cantrips because it is legendary. And then going through to the end step, just holding up their 3 for 5 mana. And they go up to 8 cards in hand thanks to the monarchy. Discarding an Orzhov Signet to hand size. Okay, drawing to a land, a legendary land that actually makes coloured mana, so I'll throw that out straight away. We'll go down to 19. We need to start gaining a lot of life if we can. And speaking of which, Blackblade Reforged will buff our Sharnid up nicely. We'll make more treasure tokens and gain more life in doing that. So I'll put Reaver Cleaver onto the Sharnid. Now it's potential for us to get blown out here. The Mardu player over here could interfere with us, but they've left us alone so far, and we've shown that we really want to get rid of Gyome. So let's go for the Blackblade. Legendary, so lose a life, draw a card, get into another legendary land. So that bumps up to an 11-3. We look to gain 11 life and make 11 treasure tokens here. Still swinging in at the Gyome player. We do tap it down this time because I'm looking at going for the Ruinous Ultimatum. And that lands, so we go back up to 29, which is much better. Much more comfortable with that, especially with the Mana Crypt in play. We've been bolted a few times by that. Obviously making the treasure tokens as well. Reaver Cleaver's 6 mana in total has really paid for itself. Putting Ruinous Ultimatum on the stack when we haven't activated Dihada yet isn't necessarily the right plan. Yeah, let's tick Dihada down first. I'm going for Ruinous Ultimatum either way, so tick her down. And then if the Dihada player goes for Generous Gift in response, then so be it. Okay, we'll take... I think we can take both of those. That is Gonti and Shizo, by the way. And this way we'll be able to discard the Atali to hand size for sure. Then cast the Ruinous Ultimatum. And see if they've got Teferi's Protection or something. They are going for something in response. Trying to give their... Yeah, giving their Planeswalker protection from white won't do anything here. The Ruinous Ultimatum doesn't target, so... Yeah, Ruinous Ultimatum just destroys everything, so protection from a colour doesn't work there. I suppose if they're not sure, they might as well try their luck though. They're going to lose the treasures anyway. The Sharnid did have Indestructible there, so that doesn't die. Moldavine Reclamation triggers a few times for Gyome, so they'll go back up to 7 cards in hand. And then I think, as much as I'd like to get out Queen Marquesa again and take the Monarchy, I mean we've got enough cards already, let's go for Elspeth Sun's Champion. Any haste from our opponents might encourage them to go over here for the Monarchy. Cantripping with Sharnid. Draws us into Mila, Crafty Companion. Plus on the Elspeth, no need to tick it down now. That we've gone for the Ruinous Ultimatum. We'll make some blockers against the Sharnid, because that does have Menace we need to remember. And then we have to discard a couple of cards to hand size here. So I think that is Atali Primal Storm ready to reanimate next turn. And we'll just, not the Shizo, we'll get rid of the Takanuma. Yeah, we'll get rid of that because the Shizo Death Storehouse might be good against the, probably just the Dinosaur player. Gives fear to a legendary creature. This is obviously good discard for when we want to put something in the bin ready to reanimate it. And there we go, the Dinosaur player scoops. They were actually in one of the better positions out of all of our opponents, so I'm not sure why they scooped there, and I'm worried that that's going to cause a chain reaction. Oh, Magic Online. We'll see what happens in the mirror match here. They've got a full grip of cards in hand. We stand to make more mana than they do. Primeval's Glorious Rebirth. I haven't kept track of... they've left their commander in the bin there. So going for the Primeval's Glorious Rebirth, we'll bring that back along with a bunch of other stuff. They get the Gemstone Caverns back out. Yoshimaru bumps up to a 5-5 immediately. Obviously the 8.5 tails is back. The Reaver Cleaver is back as well. Urza's Ruinous Blast isn't all that good in the mirror match. They don't have the mana held up for 8.5 tails here, so I wonder if it's worth destroying that while we can. They're giving Indestructible to the Yoshimaru. And then Sharnid going in towards the Elspeth. Yeah, I would have just double blocked there, I think. Because we might be blowing up Sharnid anyway. Drawing a card to the Monarchy, which we'll take back from them next turn. Drawing into Junji this turn, which could be a little bit of insurance against a board wipe, but I don't think we're quite there yet. Not quite to the point where we need that. Elspeth, we might as well just plus immediately. Throw down Shizo into the Sharnid to draw a card. Alright, Swords to Plowshares is excellent, so we can get rid of 2 creatures here, both the 8 Tails and the Sharnid. I don't really care about just chump blocking Yoshimaru all day. So let's go Swords to Plowshares on 8.5 Tails. Then we cast Yawgmoth's Vile Offering, and I'm going to reanimate the Atali, going to blow up the Sharnid. That cantrips us again, because Yawgmoth's Vile Offering is a legendary spell. Gets us into another legendary land. And then to make it difficult for my opponent to swing in, especially with the Reaver Cleaver, I'm going to plus on the Dihada here. So Indestructible and all the rest of it onto Sharnid. And the excellent thing is with the Reaver Cleaver that you can deal damage to a player or Planeswalker to get the treasure tokens. And as much as I'd love to deal damage to my opponent here, I want to keep them away from the card advantage and the ramp with their Dihada, so swing in at Dihada. Yeah, I was just reading the chat there. I had a feeling my opponent was going to scoop it up there. We swing in at their commander, we make 12 treasure tokens. And then I probably play the Gonti and the Mila and Junji, most likely. And over the next turn or two, we probably do beat them there. They're behind us on mana. They're not going to keep their commander in play. They're not going to be able to make any treasures with the Reaver Cleaver. They've got a full grip of 7, so maybe could have got into a board wipe if they didn't have one already. But yeah, if they didn't fancy their odds of getting into a board wipe, then it wasn't going to pan out too well for them. So apologies that was 3 early scoops there, but it did show off what we can do with Dihada, and it really showed off why my preferred commander in that deck is Sharnid, because we drew a hell of a lot of cards in this deck with Sharnid, and I have made a Sharnid human legendary deck, so I'm not sure if you would have seen that already, but look forward to it if you have not. Massive thank you to you loyal viewers who are also patrons. It's very, very much appreciated, and that does help out a hell of a lot, especially when these new sets drop and there's so many new cards to buy. Big thank you to you again. I'm tribalkai. Thank you for watching.